Before we get outdoors and actually do the side-by-side comparison and the footage with nice natural lighting where we can actually utilize these cameras to their best potential and just show the various different cool shots that you can get with a small handheld camera like this. I'm warning you ahead of time, I'm going to be talking a lot about these cameras in detail, telling you about their pros and cons. I'm doing you guys a favor here. If you don't want to hear all that, or you want to hear it after you see all the footage, you can skip to this time stamp here to just see the side-by-side comparisons outside. Until that point, however, I'm doing a lot of side-by-side comparisons indoors here, where the lighting is not great, and that's intentional. So you can kind of see, at their worst, how are they performing. But I'm also focusing on their connectivity, their apps, their different modes, as well as a lot of their quirks and some of the struggles that I am experiencing along this journey. Like I've briefly said before in a couple of my other videos, I've been trying to compare these two products for a very long time, and I've kind of gotten very frustrated because I was trying to do too much, I realized. Because of how different these products are in terms of their different features and the way they operate, it's just far too difficult and time consuming, unfortunately, to cover all of their different modes and features. But this should give you a good overview as far as how these two cameras compare and some of the ways that one is better than the other and vice versa. The best way I'd put it is, between the Fimi Palm and the VMate, they're two completely different products that appeal to different categories of filming. I think the Fimi Palm is better for those who want an easy to use product, which is more intuitive, quicker to turn on, get set up, and start filming with. Its in-camera settings and controls, as well as its actual interface, is far easier to use and far more intuitive. The VMate, on the other hand, I think the pros that go for it, when you are using the app as well as the included phone mount, for that kind of style of filming where you're behind the camera and not trying to actually film yourself, I think you get better video control, and I like the fact that it actually has tracking built into it. But again, if you're just interested in the raw side-by-side comparisons of the two cameras, their video quality outdoors, and kind of the cinematic kind of footage you can get out of them, then be sure to just skip to that timestamp there. Don't worry, I won't feel sad if you do that. I want to give you my unbiased thoughts, as well as share my raw frustrations with the two cameras, as well as the things that actually do truly work best for both of them. So as I quickly continue to pan and walk through this dark house here, so you can kind of see how the auto settings between the two work. We are just using the raw audio from the two cameras. We're not using any additional lighting, no additional accessories. My house right now is a mess. Not gonna lie. I'm in the process of moving, which is one of the other things that makes it so frustrating. But I think you get a better understanding of the products when everything is entirely shot on it. Right now, we're gonna jump into the not so fun comparison, the specs, the apps, and all the other things that really do define how these products perform, but are really a pain to explain and compare. Why? Why are you both so hard to use, especially at the same time? Why? Why did you rotate there? What are you locked onto? Right off the bat with the Snoppa, you'll notice there's only one button. The rest is an entire touchscreen interface to change all your settings. A little tricky to navigate this just using a touchscreen and not having any kind of dial or other buttons. For example, when you want to actually move the rotation of the gimbal, you can see how difficult that can be to do if you don't do it in the exact right spot. You'll also notice, like, if you are rotating the camera, you can't do it in two different axes at the same time. So you're either panning or tilting. Can't do both at the same time as if you had a joystick. Far harder to set up your framing because of that. This is the app setup for the Snoppa. So it's called the VMate app. Actually, so what's weird is I've had this product for a couple months now, back when it was just getting released and into the hands of reviewers. And one of the things that made it really difficult for me to review it initially is because they came up with a lot of software and firmware updates, both for the app and the device itself, that dramatically changed the way the device operated in the various modes it had. Right away, we're going to see that there is a firmware update for it, so we're going to start with that. Undetected SD card, please insert an SD card before the upgrade. I don't know what that means. The SD card is clearly detected there, that's weird. Tracking is the other big feature that this has that the Fimi Palm does not. Their app update has been great and has definitely added a lot more features and customization and manual settings that it didn't originally have, making it far more easy to use. The main reason, if I was to pick the VMate over the Fimi Palm, would be because of its tracking. You click this icon down here at the bottom left in your app. It'll allow you to just drag across an object there, and it should track it pretty well. I made it a little tricky by going through that different angle there. It's tracking it pretty well, considering we started from down there and look where the camera is now. Still tracking even though I'm all the way down here. That's pretty impressive. Its lock mode is pretty good. The app and the video that you can get when you're primarily controlling this camera using your smartphone app is where this stands out and is a better product. However, if you're looking for an all-in-one device that you can just whip out of your pocket and start filming easily a variety of shots, the Fimi Palm in general is going to come out ahead. As far as manual controls go, we have EV, white balance, ISO, but it doesn't look like you can actually control shutter speed here for whatever reason. But the other nice thing about the VMate, the other pro with it, is that you do have manual focusing, as you can see there, here. So you can get some cool focus racking with the VMate that you wouldn't be able to do with the Fimi Palm because it's just a fixed focus. And then I think if I click it, it'll just go to autofocus. Again, can't easily do that on the camera itself, which is so important. Looking at one of their online manuals, it looks like that's how you actually flip, which is not very intuitive. Cool, but again, that's new. That was never in the manual before. Another area that I believe this stands out in comparison to the Fimi Palm is the ability to live stream directly from it. YouTube Live, Facebook Live. Don't know what RTMP Live is. Maybe something international. Another interesting thing that this has is the ability to shoot with a lens vertical mode. So if you are kind of doing that portrait mode, you can rotate the lens here. Turn that, and now we have a perfectly rotated vertical image. Another key area that the VMate is significantly different compared to the Fimi Palm is in the way its case works. So the Fimi Palm doesn't have any kind of case. This is kind of similar more to the DJI Osmo Pocket in the way you kind of unboxed it. You know, so it's got that with a phone mount area here, which I haven't actually had much experience using. Let's try that really quick and see, with a larger case, will it work? It kind of does. So you are able to more easily record yourself with the phone because of this built-in mount. And it does seem relatively sturdy, I'll say that. If you have a larger phone, or if you have a larger phone with a larger case, this will probably not work out well. You might need to get an additional accessory in order to mount it more easily. That said, when it comes to you actually taking your phone off, well, now you have this case that prevents you from, one, seeing your screen, as well as using any of the other buttons on it. This is more targeted towards users, I believe, who are looking to use their phone as a controller as opposed to just using the camera itself on its own. Something that's interesting you'll notice here, I'm not sure why the screen is black, but it does like a recap of the video you just took after you've taken it, which is kind of cool, like to have that preview at the end there. Click here, I should be able to see the last clip. But the streaming and timing of this is pretty quick as far as my ability to just scrub through this, play. It'll load for a second, but it works out pretty well, and I kind of like this. It's also cool that it reminds you, it was there a second ago, but it reminds you that the lens is vertical. So let's switch that back real quick. I did, however, have to restart it because no matter what direction I put the lens orientation, it still was trying to shoot a vertical video. Lens is vertical, okay. You can see even now that I've switched it, it still thinks it's vertical. And even the camera itself is giving you that message. Wow, that was stupid. Now let's talk about the quirks of the Fimi Palm. Now we're switching over to the Fimi Palm's kind of interface. We'll start with the actual modes on the gimbal itself. Swipe up to see what you previously recorded, swipe down to get out of that. Click the icon at the top left to change your various different video modes, as well as the picture quality and your color, so F-Log is there. Your microphone sensitivity. Your top right of your screen doesn't do anything. Your bottom right, however, allows you to change your various settings. So you can change your ISO from auto to whatever you want. And you can put it back to auto by clicking the auto button. To change your different settings, you actually have to click this icon here, which took me a second to realize. So I can go there, change my white balance, put it back to auto. Some of your main settings, we need to turn on Wi-Fi each time that we want to connect to the app, which I think is a downside. This is what I was saying as far as the display, where it will zoom in your video to take up the entire screen as opposed to having that 16:9 aspect ratio where you'd have black bars at the top and bottom. I prefer it zoomed in because I can get a better idea as to what I'm filming, especially with a smaller screen like this. The different kind of aspect ratios that you can be recording in, I just have it set to ultra wide because I think that's actually kind of more the default look, correcting that fisheye perspective for certain video modes. Many of these settings and controls aren't available on the Fimi Palm on the app itself. So we've got Wi-Fi turned on again, so we can switch into our Fimi Play. Click on that, enter device. So I need to connect to the Wi-Fi. Okay, should be able to connect now. Enter device. Had to exit out and go back into it, it looks like. VMate definitely connected a lot quicker. The layout looks relatively similar. I do like that you have sticky controls here, and they don't just disappear on you. Video mode. I guess it's only allowing you to change your ISO and a white balance there for whatever reason. Even though these are oriented very similarly and they're right next to each other, you can see probably how it's, I mean, you have down to my torso here, whereas on the VMate, due to its more narrow field of view, it's down to my neck here. Far more difficult to just film yourself. I mean, right now I'm about maybe, I don't know, 3 feet away from the cameras. And this is one of the main reasons, again, that I said the Fimi Palm is a better selfie or self-filming tool compared to the DJI Osmo Pocket, unless you were to get some lens adapters for it. The Fimi Palm is actually showing, it's not mirroring the image, whereas on the VMate, it's confusing, it is. Okay, can you follow me? Not without the app, huh? In the auto settings of the Snoppa, it's not looking too good here, because again, you don't have any manual controls unless you switch open the app. Whereas I have manual controls again on the Fimi Palm, so I prefer this image. Face tracking is better than no face tracking. However, for whatever reason, I guess it's a little lagging behind here as far as tracking me. So even though the VMate does not have any tracking on, it's keeping me more centered. You can see how it's handling the bright sunlight behind me to the dark room as we flip around. The Fimi Palm also allows me to shoot in its flat profile through the camera itself without needing the addition of the app. The VMate does not allow me to do so. Fimi Palm is actually exposing for my face, whereas Snoppa is not. It is exposing for outside. Also, its horizon line is nicely tilted off, because everyone likes that, you know, when it's about like 6 degrees off axis. Walking now to the darkness. Fimi Palm is catching up a little bit. Now let's say the Snoppa in auto mode looks better. Fimi has lost my face in this darkness here. Like we were saying earlier, while these two products look very similar and are kind of targeted towards the same audience, they operate significantly differently. And I would choose the VMate again when I know I'm going to be operating it with my camera. I'm not trying to film myself, I'm trying to film another subject. All right, so I'll take a breath. I know that was a lot of information. Like I was sharing earlier, you could have skipped to this timestamp right here if you didn't want to hear all that information there. So now we're going to go ahead, ride around town, try to actually show some of the better sides of these cameras, the kind of quality you can get out of them. I know I'm still going to be frustrated once I get out there because, especially without pulling out the app, the VMate is far harder to get lined up as far as a similar shot to the Fimi Palm, whereas the Fimi Palm, because of its joystick, is just far quicker. It's got that wider field of view. Makes it a lot easier on my end there. It's auto settings and the actual controls I can get out of the device itself just give me far more control and ease when I'm trying to get that shot that I have in mind. No idea why they both start off looking downwards when you flip around. Like I said, this is not going to be an easy test. On only the VMate can I change my gimbal mode while I'm recording. I have them both set to auto mode right now. We're just going to do a couple tests side by side, then we'll try to do some nice clips of both individually so I can kind of get a little bit more control over them. But this is the selfie test, walking test. Walking with both of them about arm's length out, full auto like we said. Going through some different lighting to see how quickly it changes and keeps up with the different, well, lighting, yeah. Stability and tracking. Fimi Palm is the only one that looks like it's kind of tracking my face right now, but it seems to do the worst at actually keeping it centered in frame. Funny enough. Now we're on the one wheel to see with the absolute smoothest mode of transportation, what kind of footage can you get out of them? I'm in a bit of a more secluded area here, so I can talk a little bit louder to you guys and not worry about upsetting the nice folks of Richmond. Put this to the side and we'll continue walking real quick. It smells like sewage over here. Another walking test here. 4K 24 FPS on both. The main thing that you can see again, dynamic range, its ability to follow, as well as stability of course, and framing, that field of view. This is why I prefer the Fimi Palm. Now with them both rotated, you can see I'm gonna take a bit of a dip here as I walk down. Jog. Full run. Which one was smoother? Which one more quickly switches around to me? 1, 2, 3. That swipe feature is not very easy to do on the VMate, I've noticed. Walking on some loose rocks here. Oops, slipping a little. It's hard to tell which one looks smoother. With some loud noise behind me, which one sounds better? Again, come on Fimi, catch up. I have them both in full follow modes. The VMate seems to be doing better on the gimbal side of things. And we'll quickly switch them around. This will be a good example if I could get the phone out where you can have this in focus here. See if I can do that. And the rest out of focus. Yeah, so I can click on it and get that nice depth of field on the VMate compared to on the Fimi. Can't do that. Same with this. In focus. Now I want you to focus on the background. I guess I can only do center focus. Can I not move my focus point? Doesn't look like I can change my focus point from center. Actually kind of struggling there. Don't want to stay too far away from the one wheel. Let's go back to it. Flip around to selfie mode. Yeah, even though I did the VMate later, it seemed to have still done it quicker. I guess you could get used to the touchscreen controls on the VMate, but I'm always going to prefer having a physical joystick button that I can actually mess with. How smooth are you two? Again, still in full auto settings. So it looks like the Fimi is more likely to lose you, but also more likely to be able to fix itself, just more slowly. Whereas the VMate is less likely to lose you, but when it does, it's not going to try and readjust to find you again. But this is the kind of shooting that I primarily got both of these cameras for, to be able to kind of look down at me, look up at what I'm seeing, and then to flip around and look at me. The Fimi does it better, 100% with that. The fact that I can just more easily use the tactile buttons to know where I'm kind of focusing, as well as it's easier to physically turn the head to lock it into place. People complain and say you're not using the device right, you're not supposed to be able to do it like that. That's incorrect. You are able to move the head manually on the actual camera gimbal head to adjust it into the position that you want, and it'll stay in place. The DJI Osmo Pocket also had that same feature. Now what's the audio sound like? Which one is picking me up louder, or better rather, as we go through this loud highway region here? But to that point, the VMate doesn't allow you to do that, whereas the Fimi does. So it's just easier to quickly reframe yourself without the need of either the on-screen button, either the on-screen controls, or using the physical tactile button of the Fimi. The Fimi Palm and the VMate can both do 60 FPS. However, for the Fimi, you have to lower the resolution down to 2.7K, whereas the VMate can do 4K 60 FPS. So that's what we're shooting in right now. And then flipping them around. Oh, cool jet. Now here's a test that I like to do, and let's see how well we can do it. Filming on this little rail here. How well can we switch to selfie mode? 1, 2, 3. And then see, when I move it up, it'll stay and focus on my face there. Switch you around. Can't do that on the VMate. I have to, again, use the on-screen controls. Not as quick or easy to do. So face tracking is auto on the Fimi. The VMate can't do it there. I have to open the app, and let's see if I can easily connect to the app wirelessly out here. Snoppa VMate, still have the app open. Now that I'm on the VMate, I can drag a box over my face. Oh, it said it lost me already. And it'll track me. Both should be tracking me right now. I'm trying to do it as slowly as possible. But one of the things that I've never really tried to do, and I'm trying not to go too far away from these cameras because I know the microphones aren't going to be picking me up well. If it didn't try to switch to this on the VMate, but since it's already recording, I doubt it did. Did you lose me, VMate? Did you lose me? VMate, I assume you lost me. Did you lose me? Or is it because the app is closed? Okay, so you're tracking me, but if I close the app, yeah, if you close the app screen, you have to keep the app open to keep that tracking. So I wonder if it's because the processing is being done on... Whoa, they're just jumping around way too much. And now I don't know where my touchscreen controls are on this. On it. So you're fully rotated to the wrong way. Come back to me. Track that. So, unfortunately, I have to have the app open for that to work. And it looks like it lost me again. Okay, I don't understand. Why would you do that? Come on. even though the Fimi has less features and is doing it in a far simpler way, one, it's auto doing it, and two, it's still working. I don't need my phone app to make it work. It's just doing it a little bit more reliably, even though I have more control with the app on the VMate. So here we go, just tracking it, testing it. Awesome. Here's 1080p 60 on both. The only time I ever go to 1080p is when I'm trying to conserve space. So if you're limited by the size of your SD card, this would be the 1080p 60 that you'd be able to get out of the two different cameras here. The one other mode that I want to try out on these is now the slow motion. It's pretty garbage on the Fimi Palm, like we said. We'll see how good it is on this. In my past tests with it seemed to be all right and actually relatively usable. .4K 24 FPS for both of these cameras. I think we tested a lot here. As we've been using it, we've been kind of saying what we like and dislike. Well, I've been saying, but I think you guys will probably share a lot of the same opinions with me. I don't think I'm really doing anything too complicated or too unique, really. I'm just expecting the product to work, and I just want it to be as easy and simple to get the shot I want out of it. The common theme you'll see here is that both of these have quirks. Neither of these products are perfect, but the Fimi Palm in general for this style of shooting is the easier and more convenient product for me. It might not have that tracking, which I really like from the VMate, but it just works and is more intuitive to use. So what do you guys think of each of these? Which do you think is the better product? Which do you think suits your style of filming best? I know we covered a lot, but that's kind of how these videos go. I wanted to kind of encompass everything and all the questions that I know you guys would want to know. So there you have it, guys. Thanks again for tuning into this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. Share your comments, your thoughts, and your love down in the comments below. And until the next one, guys, as always,